Hey, this is Michael Bohm with Youth Apologetics Training. Today we're going to keep going on this series about Wicca, and we started talking about their magic and their rituals and how that works. Today we're going to keep going with that. Now, yesterday I totally goofed up the end of the podcast. I cut the podcast off. Don't worry, friends. The only thing I really cut off was the end where I just tell you to come out to the website, my conclusion. So no worries there. Today, you're not going to miss out on any content. We're just going to pick up exactly where we left off yesterday and keep on going. So anyway, let's jump right in. This pentagram and the 5 elements are usually invoked primarily to seal a magic circle, and they do this circle around themselves when they do a spell. And something tells me the majority of you have sat through some dumb scene in a movie. Why are you guys watching those movies? How come I'm always talking about you guys watching those? Oh wait, maybe that's just me. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, stop watching those movies. Anyway, these movies, I saw them when I was a kid, so of course, you see these dumb scenes where a witch is cast about in a circle. They've got this circle around them. They usually have an altar in the center. The movies oftentimes depict this kind of stuff fairly accurately, at least some of them do. You'll have this circle. There will be an altar in it. Sometimes on the altar is a depiction of the horned god and goddess. Other things that they will include in these rituals are things like a knife, which they call, and I'm going to mispronounce this stuff, I know I will, a knife, they call it an athame. They have a wand, pentacle, chalice. Hey, and by the way, this one you can have for free. The wand, traditionally, and I don't know if this is a Wiccan thing or not, but I've read this in many places. Traditionally, a wand is supposed to be made out of what kind of wood? Anybody want to make a guess? What kind of wood? Hollywood. So that kind of gives you a new take on Hollywood, doesn't it? Something to think about. I think there's a sermon in there somewhere. All right. Anyway, let's move on. So they have this knife, wand, pentacle, and chalice. Sometimes they'll have things known as, sometimes they'll include things like broomsticks, cauldrons, candles, incense. Anyway, sometimes they'll do these rituals completely naked. They call that sky-clad. Where do you get that kind of, what? All right, anyway. And sometimes, go ahead and plug the ears of anybody who is young. Go ahead and plug their ears. This will only take about 20, 30 seconds, but I just want to tell you, hopefully you've got ears plugged by now. Sometimes they will do rituals that involve sex. Yeah, they call it the great rite, or sex magic. And sometimes they'll even invoke the god or goddess to possess them. Okay, that's not good. They'll invoke a god or goddess to possess them before they do their little intercourse thing, and that's to raise magical energy for the spells they're going to cast thereafter. Isn't that just fantastic? You can go ahead and unplug your ears now. That's all I'm going to say about that. It is an abomination. Anyway, as I've mentioned earlier in this series, the kind of spells they're doing, they believe that they're good witches, right? They are part of what they call the right-handed path. You may have heard that said before, the right-hand path and the left-hand path. The right-hand path is the good, happy witches that, like I said earlier, skip through the forest with the bunny rabbits. and I know I'm being a little flippant here. And then the left-handed path, you're people like Madame P. Blavatsky, the one I told you about, who you can hardly stand to even look into her eyes in the pictures because she's so wicked looking. People like Aleister Crowley. Well, there's a lot of them out there. They are what's known as part of the left-handed path, the darker stuff. Sooner or later, I'll expose what goes on over in their department, and it ain't pretty. And it'll be one of those series that I'll suggest right out front that this is not really a series for youth at all. This is more like adults, check this out just so you know about it, so you know how to pray kind of thing. And also, well, how to spot it in somebody you love or know. Anyway, this right-handed path, the fluffy bunny rabbit skipping through the forest kind of way, they do spells for things like healing, fertility, protection, banishing negative influences, and I just want to give you a feel for what kind of weirdness they get into here. I went all over the internet. I was looking at different, don't ever do this, guys, but I was looking for examples of different kinds of spells that they do. I did this because it's almost as if God erased almost all that junk out of my head. I swear I can hardly remember all the crud that I did back in the day. And I also wanted to make sure I wasn't mixing things up because, like I said earlier, I was very eclectic. And I would have never described myself as a Wiccan, even though that's where I started. I was just into, well, bending the forces and changing the world around me. That's all I cared about, and I didn't care what path I was on. I didn't care if I was the left-hand path, the right-handed path, the foot path, or the tail path, or the nature path. I didn't care. But so I want to make sure I represent what they do. But they got spells for safe travel. I kid you not. I mean, whole spells with elaborate, silly things that they, and I'm making a joke of it, but I mean, tongue of newt and a robin's eyelash and the hair off of a toad, and I mean, and I'm making a joke of it, and I'm actually not being serious, but all these silly things that they want you, all these weird little hoops that you got to jump through in order for the secret forces of nature will jump in and do something for you. I mean, it is silliness, guys. It is silliness. But they have, I don't need this spell, but the spell to find a good parking spot. I kid you not, they have a spell to find a good parking spot. And we got spells for astral projection. I'll talk about that. I was going to just do little one-part teachings on a whole host of different weird practices that they have. And astral projection is not just Wiccans. That particular guy is found in ESP, and it's found in many other forms of witchcraft. There have been strange black projects that various governments of the world have actually experimented with how valid astral projection is. This is not something that's tinfoil hattery. It's stuff that many governments have admitted. I mean, it's bizarre. Our government included. It's very bizarre, but I mean, there's people within the government that say, hey, if it works, let's give it a shot and see if we can't train some guys to do this, and we'll get intel in areas that satellites can't see. I mean, I guess it makes sense from a secular point of view. But, the astral projection is, in its basic form, it's supposedly, okay, I say supposedly because I ain't buying this 1 second, but they believe that their spirit leaves their body and then they travel to different places. I don't know if your spirit leaves your body or not. I do know that God hates that. If God pulls you out of your body and it's God doing the business and He takes you wherever He takes you in some kind of a vision, kind of like when it says in the Bible, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell. You know, that's one of those times. And hey, if God does it, fine. Then you're in the clear, okay? Don't you dare try to do that on your own. It is an abomination. All right, so there you have it. I hope I'm not tempting anybody to do this stupid stuff, okay? And by the way, most of these government projects concluded that it was inaccurate and people were seeing things that weren't actually happening, okay? So I'm not gonna say that in every instance that's the case, but I'm saying the success rate is so low that I have to doubt whether anything real is happening or if Satan's just giving you a nice little parlor trick, you know, tricking your mind, giving you a hallucination. I don't know. Whatever the case, don't do it. And I'm going to stop right there. With that, come out to the website, youthapologeticstraining.com, and leave a comment, leave a question, and you can also catch up with me on Facebook. And, well, I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.